Hey, what's up YouTube? Luso here with Team D Plus Gaming, and we have Mr. Prestidigitation here to give you his Gravekeeper deck profile for the format, and I'll pass it off.
Hey, what's up YouTube? Okay, so I've got my Gravekeeper deck. I took this to the Des Moines Regional, and considering that it ran into a lot of bad matchups, it still did pretty well. Those bad matchups being Harpies. They just destroy too much back row for the deck to handle, really. But let's get this started off. We run 3 Commandant. Commandant allows the deck to effectively run 6 Necro Valleys. It is the terraforming. Another great thing about this is that it is Earth, so when your opponent possibly sides in Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, you still have monsters that can do things. That, and with Necro Valley on the field, it is a 2100 beater. Next up, we've got 3 Gravekeeper Spy. When it's flip summoned, you special summon a Gravekeeper with 1500 or less attack. That, and when Necro Valley is on the field, it does have 2500 defense. So it does make a very good defensive wall. Then next up, we've got 3 Gravekeeper's Recruiter. This is the searcher for the deck. It'll grab any Gravekeeper with 1500 or less defense from the deck when it's sent to the graveyard. One thing that's good about this is you can bluff set it and make your opponent think you're setting a spy, and they will generally tend to pop it if you do that. And since they're expecting a spy, they'll waste the resources on that, and either way you get the search. That tends to be a good strategy. Then next up, we've got 2 Gravekeeper's Descendant. Gravekeeper's Descendant is just your spot destruction, plus it has 2000 attack when Necro Valley is on the field. Then we've got 1 Gravekeeper's Assailant. This card is really good against the Fire Fist and Bujin matchups. When Necro Valley is on the field and this card declares an attack, you can change one of your opponent's monster's battle positions. So the reason this is good is you can just switch their bear to defense or whatever it is, and then it doesn't. And then the attack boosts don't phase the monster or anything. And then we've got 1 Gravekeeper's Nobleman. This was in the new support. It's decent, but I mean there's some left to be desired since your opponent does have to run it over by battle. So one thing is early game you can just summon it in attack position and force your opponent to either use a lot of resources popping it or just run over it. And then when they do, you can summon just set a spy directly from deck or anything like that. And then next up we've got 1 Gravekeeper's Heretic. This card was honestly one of the best cards of the new support that came out. It's unaffected by all other card effects as long as Necro Valley is on the field, which unfortunately does include the 500 boost from Necro Valley, but considering the fact that it is immune to back row and you can just blindly attack no matter what they have set, that is a huge boost. But then onto spells. We've got our mandatory 3 Necro Valley. It just shuts off the opponent's graveyard and gives all of the Gravekeepers a 500 boost. Then we've got 3 Pot of Duality. I use this for deck thinning. A lot of people will ask why I don't run Upstart, just because of how popular it is, this format, but Gravekeepers are slow enough that they don't need their special summon very often, and Duality is just good for thinning your deck and getting what you actually need rather than just blindly drawing. Then we've got 3 MSTs. This is a very heavy back row format, and 3 MSTs is just really nice. Then we've got 2 Gravekeeper Steel. This is a salvage for Gravekeepers. It just keeps your resources flowing. We've got 2 Forbidden Lance. Considering that Heretic does have a fairly low attack of 1800, having the 2 Lance is nice. If your opponent tries to attack over Heretic, you can usually just Lance it and have Heretic beat over the monster. And then I run 1 Royal Tribute because, I mean, sacking is just fun. And we've got 1 Book of Moon and 1 Dark Hole for the rest of the staples. Then on to traps. I run 3 Imperial Tombs of Necro Valley. It's essentially an Infernity barrier for Gravekeepers. I've seen a lot of people cut it down to 2 or even 1 in rarer cases. Since it does have the requirement that you have Necro Valley and a Gravekeeper's monster on the field, it can be harder to pull off, but I usually haven't had any trouble with that. And honestly, the fact that it can negate almost anything is just really nice and makes it worth having 3. And then I run 2 Fiendish Chain for effect negation. The Fiendish Chain really stops a lot of decks in its tracks. Then I've been teching into safe zones as of late. I found it very helpful. One thing you can do is you can use it to protect Gravekeeper's Descendant. That is a popular thing for the opponent to bottomless or just regular trap hole. And safe zone keeps it from being destroyed. But then another thing is, since Gravekeepers run so much back row, your opponent will generally just try to destroy things. And what you can do is you can chain safe zone and target one of their monsters, because then when safe zone gets destroyed, it takes their monster with it. And then I've got 2 Mirror Force and 3 1-ofs, Solemn Warning, Torrential Tribute, and Bottomless Trap Hole. And that rounds out the main deck. And for the extra deck, I've got 2 Master Key Beetle. Combined with Safe Zone, this card is devastating to most decks just because it's really hard to get rid of. They basically need like Grand Mole or Spellbook of Fate. And I've got Silent Honor Arc, pretty much mandatory. It gets around a lot of problem cards. We've got 1 Maestroke, 1 Pappy. And we've got Black Ship of Corn. This is an especially good card this format, considering the prevalence of Arc. If a lot of decks will try to use Arc as a Maestroke, just because if it would be destroyed, you can just detach a material. And since Black Ship sends, it just gets around that easily. Then I've got 1 Diamond Dyer for spot destruction. I've got Cowboy, Crazy Box for the skill drain matchups. I've been using 1 Ivagishki Marrowgeist. This card is good against a lot of things where effects activating Graveyard. Since when this card would destroy a monster by battle, you can detach 1 material and send it back to the deck instead. So one thing this is particularly good against is Fire Kings. If you have to attack over a Yaksha, you can use this card and then it gets sent back to the deck so it doesn't get its effect. Then I've got 1 Abyss Dweller for the Mermail matchup. I've been using 1 number 82 Heartland Draco. While you control a face-up spell card, namely in this deck Necro Valley, this card can't be targeted for attacks, and then once per turn you can detach a material and this card can attack directly. I found that card actually fairly useful throughout the regional. And I've got 1 Downerd Magician, just because this deck can actually make it. Since it requires 2 level 4 spellcasters, it is occasionally nice to just have piercing defense and a beater when I need it. Then I've got 1 number 49 Fortune Tune. This card is very good as it can't be targeted and it has a Zen Mains-esque effect as that if it would be destroyed you can just detach a material. And it has the added bonus of giving you 500 life points during your standby phase. But then one of the other nice things is that when it is finally destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can send this and 2 level 3 monsters from your graveyard back into the deck. And so that helps keep your resources filled. And then I have 1 Stardust Dragon. And the Stardust is because I do run 2 Starlight Roads inside. And the reason being is that this format there's a lot of back row hate. One of the big cards being used is Full House, which can be absolutely devastating for this deck, just because it does have the face-up field spell. And if your opponent can chain a card to have another face-up, they can just hit all of the back row. And then other cards like Torrential and Mirror Force are still prevalent. But this card is absolutely fantastic for stopping those things, and I have actually gotten it off a few times. Yeah, that card was wonderful. It was just the MVP of the day. But then for the rest of the side deck, I have 2 Curse Seal of Forbidden Spell. This card is a great side for decks with a lot of back row hate. Because basically you discard a spell card from your hand to negate the activation and effect of a spell card your opponent activates, and then they can't use that spell card for the rest of the duel. So this card is really for hitting MSTs, or if you're playing against Fire Fist, you can use it to hit Tanky or anything else they have. And then I have 2 Black Horn of Heaven, since almost every deck special summons out of the extra deck. This card can hit it or any other inherent summons. And I've got 2 Vanity's Emptiness. Again, Gravekeepers don't special summon a whole lot, so this card is just really good to have. I've got 2 Chain Whirlwind. This card is really fantastic because you activate it when a card on the field is destroyed by an effect, and then you select 2 spell and trap cards on the field and destroy them. So what you can do is activate MST or Dust Tornado or anything like that, and then after that destroys the card, you chain this and destroy 2 more. I found it a little more alive than Full House in playtesting, so I decided to go with it instead, and it was really fantastic against the Fire Fist matchup. And then for a little more back row hate, I also have 2 Dust Tornadoes. And then I also have a 3rd Fiendish Chain in here. Effect negation is really important. And then for more, I have 2 Effect Veilers. These were mainly for the Fire Fist matchup, since my opponents would often open multiple Gyoku, and just having some effect negation that was not in the back row really helped the games go a bit better. And then lastly, I've got a 2nd Gravekeeper's Assailant for the Fire Fist and Bujin matchup. It really helped the deck do well against those. But overall, the deck is a lot more consistent than Gravekeepers used to be. It can handle a lot of different matchups, especially with the side. It can deal with a lot of threats that it didn't used to be able to.
So thanks for watching, guys. As always, please give us a thumbs up if you liked the video, and like and subscribe for more. Team D Plus Gaming, signing out.